Niners are 1-2. They got to win this week. This is it. It's not their Super Bowl, but it kind of is. Like back in the day when it was a 16-game season and 6 teams made the playoffs, I think if you started 1-3, your chances to make the playoffs were something like 0.4%. Now it's probably a little bit more because there's a 7th seed and 17 games. But the theme of this week is don't lose to the Rams. And so the Niners are going to have to find a way to win without Mike McDaniel, who it seems to be was like kind of important to this team. And we're learning. There's a clip that went around yesterday from Rob Stats Guerrera asking Joe Staley what Mike McDaniel did. And he basically said, Kyle, his assistants designed the plays. Kyle calls them. And Mike McDaniel was like the chief designer. What did you think of that? And what do you think his loss means to this team?
You know what, man? The way, and my guy Greg Pinelli, he sent me a DM like, man, you see this? And I listen, I'm listening. I listened to it like 3 times in a row just to kind of really grasp it. And to me, it sounded like Mike McDaniel was the point guard, and he's throwing alley-oops off the backboard to Kyle Shanahan. Then Kyle Shanahan comes through windmills and dunks it. And once everybody noticed, not so much the pass, they noticed the dunk, right? But really, who kind of facilitated the whole setup? And that was how I took it. And it felt like Joe Staley was trying his hardest not to be disrespectful to what Kyle brings to the table. But it sounded like McDaniel was kind of the brains behind the entire operation. And when you really think about their situation, they're dynamic. And it's cool because you see those guys grow together and whatnot. I went back and looked on Wikipedia, and I knew they had been together for a long time. But when you just kind of look at the numbers, the years, 2006. They've been coaching together since 2006. So pretty much outside of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers little stint for Kyle Shanahan, those guys have been in lockstep every step of the way. Mm-hmm. And sounds like McDaniel, and a lot of people, McDaniel, this and that. And I'm like, oh, man, it's Kyle Shanahan. Like, this is his offense. These are his guys. He handpicked these guys. But I do think that maybe he just brings something different for Kyle Shanahan that Kyle is truly missing. And I think I might have underrated that aspect of their relationship a little bit too much.
Kyle talked about it a couple of weeks ago, and he was like, look, he's been here 18 of my 20 years as a coach, and only 2 of those years was he a position coach, which means he didn't have a position of players to coach. He was just grinding film. So it seemed like he was basically the ace up Kyle's sleeve. Hey, man, do my homework for me. Hey, dude from Yale, would you please do my homework for me? Watch the film. Tell me what I need to. And he did, and he was great at it. And then Kyle would use that information, call the plays, and build his game plan from there.
Did you hear what Hawkins said about him? Hawkins, the former receiver for like Cleveland Browns.
The Allen Iverson clips.
And listen, so just listening to that, because everybody's like, run game coordinator. And yeah, that's what he did for Kyle Shanahan. But in the sense of his understanding of offense, it's much deeper than just being a run game coordinator. Right. The things that
he was a wide receiver. He was a wide receiver at Yale. Keep that in mind.
So it makes a lot of sense because the things he's saying and how he's teaching, and I think teaching is a huge part of being able to coach. A huge part. I always talk about Rex Ryan, and Rex Ryan to me was a very rare combination of 3 things: an amazing teacher, amazing X's and O's, and amazing players coach. You typically don't find guys that are like all 3. Our master motivator, Rex Ryan was all of that. And when you listen to how Hawkins is talking about McDaniel, my thing went to this. McDaniel just gets it. He gets how to coach. He gets how to get his guys to buy in. He puts those guys consistently in positions to win. He says, hey, you play against this. He taught these guys 3 releases, right? 3 releases off the offensive line. Taught them 3 releases and said, listen, you get these 3 releases down. Those are going to be the only 3 releases you need. And then they would get into a game and say, hey, you play against this corner, use this one of the 3 releases, and the guy won't touch you for the entire game. And for him to just have that understanding of the relationship and the chess match between the receiver and cornerback, and to get guys to win and get guys that are older, that have been playing for years, to buy into the concept of what he's saying. This little, small, nerdy guy that looks like the rapper Logic, like that's big time, man. He's got some special stuff there. So I don't want to, just go on this tangent of how much Kyle Shanahan probably misses him, but I do kind of want to give him his flowers in the sense of what I'm hearing and the type of coach he is. And maybe, obviously, he got a lot of talent over there in Miami. A lot of people realize that. But the early success of getting his guys to buy in, starting off 3-0, where Kyle Shanahan did not have the roster of the Miami Dolphins when he took over the 49ers, but trying to figure out how to win, losing 9 straight games. And this guy already, even though and people can have good teams, but it's like he already kind of has a grasp of it and his guys are buying in.
And I think one thing that's key to remember with McDaniel is last year he was the offensive coordinator. He was not just the run game coordinator. So he had the full offense last year, and Kyle was picking plays from that. Also, I always thought of Kyle as a great play designer, but I always questioned his play calling. Now I'm like, okay, you didn't even design the plays? So, for example, in this last game, they're down 1. Let me give you a game situation, all right? It's 11-10. The Broncos just scored a touchdown. The Niners have the ball, 4:10 left at their 25. This is where Kyle, the play caller, comes in. This is where we've questioned him, like, fourth quarter, key moment, what do? He calls 5 straight passes, and Jimmy throws a pick, and the Niners lose. And it's like, dude, what? Like, this is where you hand the ball to Jordan Mason and just grind him down because their defense is tired and you run the ball well, but no. So I have questions about Kyle. And this whole revelation that McDaniel was the play designer, or that, McDaniel and his assistants, I'm like, wait a second. What does Kyle do? Kyle just calls the plays? I don't like the play calls. Wait a second. That's how I feel.
Kyle is okay. So I talked to my guy Tyler Bray, right? Tyler Bray, he was a practice squad quarterback for the 49ers a little bit late last year.
I know exactly who Tyler Bray is. Absolutely. Cannon.
So he came on the podcast with me and Greg Pinelli, and he talks about his time in some of these other places. Let's say like Kansas City, right? Yeah. Or even Chicago, and what his job was as a backup quarterback. So essentially the starting quarterback, whoever the starting quarterback was, let's say Mitchell Trubisky, him and Chase Daniel, who like kind of, but him and Chase Daniel would be in there before Mitchell Trubisky. And they'd be banging out everything, setting everything up, making sure that Mitchell Trubisky is going to be the most prepared that he could be. And then once Mitchell Trubisky gets in there, after the other guys that have already been working, they present him, hey, here it is. Wow. Right? Like, this is what and then Mitch takes it, okay, looks over it, okay, I got to do
So they're like coaches too.
Right. Essentially, the backup quarterback is kind of a coach. And so they have it all set up for him, everything laid out, boom. And they're essentially the McDaniel for Kyle Shanahan, where McDaniel was setting everything up. Okay, break it down, set it all up. Here we go. Okay, all right, Kyle, here you go. This is what you got for this week. This is what I think it'll work against them. This is how you can attack them. Everything set up. And then Kyle uses his, okay, this is how I'm going to do things. This is how I'll structure the play calling, etc. But the game plan was given to him. That's what I took from what has been said so far.
Yeah, and like we're gonna talk about the Niners matchup with the Rams, but it's in a minute. It just seems like when the Niners have beaten the Rams, which was 6 times in a row, they always were one step ahead of them with their offense. They always had like one trick that the Rams weren't ready for. I mean, Week 18, Debo threw a touchdown pass. The Niners had some really cool stuff until the NFC Championship game, and they need something. And it's not going to be coming from Mike. It's got to come from Kyle or Clay Kubiak. They need something different because right now their offense sucks. And the Rams shut it down the last time they faced them. So, yeah, I mean, I'm not saying they suck.
Do you remember how the Rams shut it down?
Tell me.
What it looked like, and I won't go back and watch that game. I just, those games, I don't go back and watch it. I have not watched the 2012 season Super Bowl. I have not went back and watched the Chiefs Super Bowl. Like, I won't go back. I won't go back and watch this game either. But from what I remember, and things being tough, man, they just said, we're going to make Jimmy beat us with his arm. We're going to load the box. And Elijah Mitchell had a tough time getting anything going. I think no matter how creative of a run game coordinator you are or whatever, it will be kind of difficult when a team is just saying, you got to find a different way to beat us. So I think
because hold on, that's what Denver did. That's what Denver did last week. And their DC came from the Rams. That DC came from the Rams. So the book is out. You're right.
Right. Yeah. So I don't want to, and part of it is, and we look at win-loss record for Kyle Shanahan, et cetera, he's to blame for a lot of this. He picks the guys, but he doesn't have a quarterback where he needs that quarterback to be able to counter some of the things that guys are doing. Because there are opportunities, and there have been opportunities in both the 49ers losses where they have not been able to take advantage of it because of who's that quarterback, whether it's Trey Lance or Jimmy Garoppolo.
That's true.
And that's something that they need to. Now, you would hope, Jimmy in his 9th year can see certain things a certain way and understand exactly how to counter what teams are doing against him. But maybe there's this physical limitation or just the way his mind works. I've been watching this guy on Netflix, Jeffrey Dahmer or something like that. And you just see, like, there's just some people, their minds just work way different. And you don't know why. And I'm not saying that Jimmy's a serial killer, but his mind just works different than other people. And I'm looking at things and I'm talking to my quarterback guys. I'm like, bro, how do you not? And they're like, I don't know. So, I mean, that's the hard part too, trying to figure out why does Jimmy Garoppolo think the way that he does.